everyone, and welcome to another episode of Taco Bata Tuesday, the show where we eat healthy, delicious tacos and have conversations about life. You don't chop wood to use its day. You chop wood to build a good fire tomorrow. In a society that consistently seeks instant gratification, how do we possibly slow down, become more present in the process, and be patient in the results to come down the road? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we jump into that, let's go ahead and talk about the taco of the week. So y'all know I have been working hard. Protein is like my favorite thing in the entire world. And one of my favorite sources of protein is bison. So this week, that is what the taco is made out of, is bison. It is called the Rocky Mountain Taco, which is healthy, delicious, and all the things you could ever need. So if you're like, yo, I'm on that train and I want to turn my bison burgers basically into a taco for Taco Tuesday, this is your calling. So you're going to need to go to the show notes and find the recipe card after the amazing episode today. So let's go ahead and jump right in. And I'm really excited to be talking about this because I feel like it's such a great segue or conversation continuer from what we had last week, which was cracking the success code, where I talked about how I essentially performed. I executed exactly what I needed to do in my DEKA Strong race and what ultimately helped me get to that point for this thing that I've been working for so long. And guys, when I say for so long, I mean that this has been like at least a year in the making. In fact, if we really want to be honest, this has been since 2018 from the moment I decided to get off the couch and do something with my life. So today's episode is all about chopping wood. And what does that mean, might you ask? If you've never heard of the term just keep chopping wood, carrying water, it's a call back to the fundamentals. It's a call back to the basics and staying consistent to those. The idea of chopping wood, there's actually a book on it. It's a lovely short read. I highly recommend it. But this idea is that when you chop wood, you don't use that wood right away in a fire. You actually have to let it dry out for anywhere from 6 to 12 months, depending on the wood, right? And so it's this idea of not leaning into instant gratification. It's this idea of being able to really play the long game, right? Think about it this way. We eat good food. We go to the gym. We step on the scale. Nothing happens. We do the same thing the next day. And nothing happens. And before you know it, several days have gone by and nothing has happened, at least nothing significant. At least so we think. But here's what I will tell you is that the woman who was stuck on the couch crying her life away, wishing she was less lethargic, she sees a change. The woman who was stuck in her corporate career wishing to do something that she loved, she sees the change. The girl who dreamed on being an American Ninja Warrior and doing things that freaking terrified her, let me tell you, she sees the freaking change. Obviously, the woman that I'm referring to is previous versions of myself. And what I have to say is, how often do you actually acknowledge those past dreams, those wants, those hopes, and see the progress that you've made, the lessons that you've learned, the new doors that you've opened because of your consistency? Or are you blinded by what hasn't happened yet? And I put yet in all caps because it just hasn't merely happened yet. Guys, here's the most important lesson that I can tell you today when it comes to continually chopping wood and getting out of instant gratification is that celebration and gratitude for the road you've walked and the mountains you've climbed is one of the vital steps to getting you out of this instant gratification loop and back into how life is showing up for you and how you are showing up for it. And I wanted to say how you are showing up for it because I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for how we tend to show up for it. Speaking of which, I had a client text me about consistency. And this girl's amazing. She works so hard. She gets really excited about a goal. And so she'll go super hard for like 2 to 3 weeks and then all of a sudden finds herself in emotional, mental, physical, some sort of burnout. And so her and I were having a conversation and she asked me an honest question about, hey, if I was just to get the workouts done, no matter like how it happens, like if I had to mix days, is that consistency? I'm really just trying to figure out what this looks like for me so I don't continue to burn out. And what I sent her back is a graphic that showed what we think consistency looks like versus what it actually is. Okay. Consistency is not showing up every day. It's not giving 100% in every single bubble of all 7 days of the week. Some days it's going to be at 45. Some days it's going to be at 100. Some days it's going to be at 70. Consistency is about recognizing what you have available to give that day and giving 100% of that, knowing that it's okay if it isn't the same level that you were able to give the days before. And I actually just really quick want to read off the rest of the text that I sent her. I said, there is no better graphic to describe this. You use what you have available in the tank that day and accept not every day will look the same. Appreciate the days that are seamless and you were firing all cylinders, and give yourself grace to learn the lessons as you navigate the inevitable tough days that come your way. So that's what I want to tell you about that, especially in relation to chopping wood and understanding what consistency looks like. And this is where I want to segue about what you do becomes so much more important than how much you do. I'd rather you give me 5 of the absolute best reps you have ever done in your life than 100 of the worst reps you have ever done in your life. So this is a gut check to take an honest look at what you are doing from day to day and ask yourself, am I doing things with intention? Are my daily actions focused, and do they serve a purpose to the bigger goal? If you don't know what your goal is, well, it's kind of hard to understand if those daily actions are serving a purpose, right? So then you need to go take some steps backwards and figure out what that is and what that looks like for you. But if you do know a goal, which I'm assuming a lot of you do, you have something in mind that you're shooting for, then make sure that your daily processes from mental to physical to emotional align with that 100%. When you have intention and purpose to every single one of your actions, you easily become more present. And when you become more present, you find more joy for the journey. You start to fall in love with the steps versus the outcome because you know with each rep that you are adding belief, trust, and momentum. And that is huge, okay? Now, here's the other thing, is that intention and purpose does not mean complexity or complicated, okay? It means being efficient and simple, because here's the truth. Complexity is a complete showstopper in success, without a doubt. These next couple of weeks, I want to give you an example of this. These next couple of weeks, my coach on my schedule has me doing agility and plyometrics. That's it. That's the main focus. Granted, I'm doing a little bit of running. I'm doing a little of aerobic base building and work. But the main focus is agility and plyometrics. Nothing sexy, nothing creative, just the basics. Now, it could be really easy for me to question if I am doing enough to race well in my DEKA Fit in a month and a half, to do well in the upcoming things that I have myself committed to. But what I am going back on is the belief that these are the exact building blocks that got me to where I'm at today, and therefore will be the exact building blocks that get me to where I'm going. So this is where you have to ask yourself, what are the fundamental basics that you can keep chopping wood on? What are those things that align? They're not sexy, they're not creative, they are just simple that you need to stay absolutely consistent to in chopping wood on. Okay? And I want to mention this as well too, that it's not just the basics that are important, friends. But if there are things that are compiling up on the side that you aren't addressing, those will 110% hinder you. All of those things that you are choosing not to address, choosing not to do, just, I'm going to put that pain to the side. I'm just going to, not get sleep tonight. I'm going to not, fill in the blank. I don't know what that looks like. But those little things are going to add up, and over time, they are going to hinder you. So you can't just chop wood in your workouts, but not in your recovery or not in your nutrition, because again, they will catch up to you. So ask yourself again, what will keep me from continuing to chop wood, and address those things just as much as the things that you are committed to staying consistent to. So again, it's not just about the basics. It's about those other things too that are going to keep you from success. One of the things that I talked about a little while back was this idea of I don't want to say what a normal person asks, but let's say what a beginner asks versus what an elite athlete asks, right? Or someone of the elite category would ask. The beginner would ask things of, what is it that I need to do? The elitist would ask, what are going to be the things that keep me from clinching the results that I want? So start asking yourself the questions from the elite mindset, because when you do that and you ask yourself better questions, you get better answers, okay? Last thing I want to mention in this whole idea of continuing to chop wood and not get stuck in this instant gratification bubble is, think of a bow and arrow. In order for an arrow to go forward, the bow and arrow must go backwards first. Chopping wood does not mean that you're always making upward progressions, that you're always hitting your personal best, that things are always going the way that you want them, that they're perfect. It means that you are doing what matters most in the worst of conditions, and do not get afraid when these seasons come. You acknowledge that they are a part of the process and will add so many gains to the pile of wood that you just keep chopping. So that is all that I have to say about keep chopping wood, the main topic for today. And I really, really hope that that helped, especially now that you have this idea of what has made me successful and what could also make you successful. And then as you continue to go towards this success, these results that you want, these little things to keep as reminders, to keep close to your heart, to keep close to home as you're on this journey. Because again, this is not a sprint. This is not an overnight thing that's going to happen. This is going to be a marathon of consistency over and over and over again that's going to get you to where you want to go. So that is all on the keeping up your chopping of the wood. I do want to spend just a few minutes of the last part of the podcast, because I was asked to talk about my DEKA Strong strategy as it relates to this last race and the logistics that helped me get the time that I got to get my brand new personal record. So if you are not a DEKA person and you could care less, this is your time to tune out. I have nothing else exciting to say around anything besides what I'm about to talk about. So with that being said, I was thinking about, do I go into split times? Do I go into all the things? And I don't think that would be the most advantageous, at least for those of you listening on the other line, because at the end of the day, we all have different strengths. We all have different areas of the race that we are really good at and that we are also consistently improving on. And so for me to be like, this is the time that you have to hit, it doesn't make any sense, right? So I wanted to give the high level things that I do within my training, as well as when I go and compete, to make sure that I put up the best possible time for that day, right? And so a lot of what I mentioned last week was having a strategy, right? If you don't have a strategy as far as what things should feel like, what stroke per minute, what's the word I'm looking for? What pace you're going at, right? If you don't understand those specific things, you're probably setting yourself up to fail in the first place, because you're not really sure what to look for. And then when the numbers start changing, you're thinking, oh gosh, I'm doing worse. Like, you start to freak out, and we all know that that's not the way to success, okay? So there's that piece, right? Now, as far as my overall strategy goes for the DEKA Strong, I'm not going to speak on the mile. I'm not going to speak on the fit, mostly because I've only done the mile teams-wise, and I've never done the fit. And so I am not specialized enough as an athlete in those areas to say what the differences are, but I'm very specialized here. So if you're competing a strong, here are the things that I would recommend as it relates to strategy. The first one is a no-brainer, And that is go slow to go fast on the back half, without a doubt. I see so many people literally on the row, like trying to huck this insane time. And I get it. You're feeling good, adrenaline, excitement. Y'all, I row at like a 21 strokes per minute, and I row at like a 203, 204. Am I capable of going 147? You betcha. But the last time that I did that, guess what happened? I fell over on the box and I got the worst time since I started competing. Like, it completely tanked me for the rest of the workout. So you have to figure out what a manageable pace is specifically on the row and on the ski. That is what I would consider the first half, right? The rest of the stations, as far as the lunges, the box step overs, the sit-ups, that is just straight up agility. You either are really efficient at those or you're not. And so maybe in your training, right, you need to work at getting a little bit more efficient at those, work on your breathing patterns through those things, because I will tell you that first half up until the ski going into the farmer's carry, that is your buy-in. That is exactly where the race starts. In order for you to get to the race, you got the buy-in of the first 5 stations. And after that, that's where the intensity and the real work begins. So you have to go slow to go fast on the back half. And you got to send your ego out the window when you want to like full send it on the row and on the skier. Okay. So just to give you an idea on the ergs, because this kind of relates to my next point, is again, I go at around a 203, a 204. And then on the skier, I'm around like a 215 to a 218. Again, am I capable of more? Absolutely. However, I know that if I burn out my legs on the row, I'm completely screwed for the rest of the race, because this is literally a huge leg race. And I know if I go too fast on the ski, my heart rate's going to jump and I can't control it from the farmer's carry going into the bike, which is when I need to have it stabilize for me to actually push where it matters. Okay. So that's where I'll have to say about that. The second point in relation to the strategy is getting better at the ergs and drilling in a pace that feels effortless. So there are, let's see, I can't even talk about how many workouts I've done. There have been several workouts since I've started working with Kevin Gregory and the Underdog fitness team, where I have just literally done long, grindy workouts where I just go race pace. 45 to 60 minutes of building an aerobic pace where I am like running, then I go to the row, running, then I go to the ski, running, then I go to the bike. Right? And I consider the bike as an additional erg, so basically the machines. And all I do is I practice race pace. Run, I go row 204. Run, I ski 215 to 218. Run, I go and I do my 72 to 75 cadence, right? Maybe I'll do a ramp up here and there to really push, so I'm off the bike between a minute 15 and a minute 22. Okay? So one thing that was a massive, massive change for me was drilling in what my paces were and just getting really good at those. You'll watch me in my videos and people are like, are you falling off? Are you tired already? And it's like, no, I'm having a good day. And guys, I knew at the ski erg at my last race that I was going to hit a PR, because I was like, I am not even sweating yet. Like, this is amazing right now. And you want to know why? It's because I've spent countless hours just seamlessly practicing my technique, seamlessly practicing that easygoing pace so that I can put all the jets on when it matters. And it matters from zones 6 all the way up to zone 12. At least in my mind it does, okay? The next thing that has really changed for me in regards to my strategy has been practicing the hard transitions and doing compromise work on stations. So the hard transitions workout is one of my favorite. I program it for a lot of my athletes. I know that Kevin programs it a lot for his athletes too. But the hardest transitions are the row to the box step overs, the ski erg into the farmer's carry, and then the bike into the ball step overs, because those are the parts of the race where you're like, whoa, my legs feel a little wobbly. Whoa, like my heart rate's through the roof and I feel like I'm about to die. So those are the things that we practice where we go super, super hard for like a condensed amount of time, build up that fatigue quickly, and then have to work through those next parts of the station as best as we can, right? Just getting through that sort of pain, tough feeling so that when it's race day, it's not new to you. You know how to do it and you're able to push through it. So practicing those hard transitions is a really, really big deal, especially in building confidence and belief in what you know that you can get through, right? And maybe your hard transitions isn't one of those three that I named. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's the ball step overs into the tank. Maybe it's the tank into the burpees. I don't know. But whatever it is, those are the things that you need to practice, okay? And compromise work is basically the same thing. For me, I noticed that my next sticking point was the tank, right? And I had like that PTSD moment from pushing the tank on the wrong weight, but I never wanted to run into that again. And so I said, forget it. I'm doing it on the men's weight. So what I would do is I would go and do something that was very taxing with the legs, and then I would turn it on the men's weight and I would just do the full 5 laps. Was I in pain? Absolutely. But that sort of compromise work allows for me to mentally and physically work through that to the point where, again, when I get into a race setting, I know that I have what it takes to push through that pain, zone out, and do the dang thing, okay? Last 2 things that I want to mention, or maybe 3. I think 3. Do your training with intention so you can listen to your gut when it's time to create a plan. And the example that I want to give to this is I was doing a workout one day, and out of the workout is like, my intention is the bike, because I feel like the bike, if you can get really good at the bike, I'm sorry, you can be really good at the rest of the race. The bike and the tank, if you can get really good at those 2 things, I feel like you have an awesome chance of doing very well in the DEKA Strong. But I was like, okay, I have to figure out my bike pace for the next time, because if my legs start to crap out on the tank again, I need to still have some leftover juice to make it happen. And so I was like, maybe doing my original strategy of ramping it all the way up to 95 RPMs for the first 20 seconds and then going, maybe that's not the way to do it. And so in this workout, I was like, okay, I'm building up fatigue. And during each of these 4 bike efforts of 25 cals, I'm going to just go at like a nice 70 to 80 RPM, and I'm going to see what happens. And what I was able to do was to consistently, each time under fatigue, land anywhere between a minute 15 and a minute 22. And I was like, this is it. So I texted my coach. I was like, yo, I figured it out. This is my strategy. So when you train with intention, you start to unlock the answers and the big aha moments of like, whoa, this is what it is that I need to do. And so if right now, if you're just kind of like looking at random workouts and just throwing spaghetti at the wall, you need to start training with more intention, whether that's seriously looking at your current times and thinking, what are the areas of opportunity and taking ownership for those, or reaching out to a coach, getting help. Okay. I will tell you that is probably the biggest change that I talked about last week in cracking the success code. With my strategy, it was like, if I'm going to go anywhere this year, I can't do this alone. I have to delegate and I have to ask for help. Even though I know I'm fully capable of doing it, I'm not going to get any better or any further unless I have someone that could really push me. And this is kind of the same idea as when I started working with Kevin, is I told him that I need someone to see my potential and schedule me workouts that I look at and go, that looks impossible. But then I do it and I build belief from that, because I truly believe that only so much of this is physical. A lot of this is mental. And so what I need for you to hear is that you need to go there. You need to program workouts that send you into that pain cave so that you can go to that place and start to build that belief that you can do this. I would say that's been a huge change, is my mindset of being like, if I can do that, I can do a 15-minute race, you betcha, right? So going to that pain cave and chipping away in it is such a huge part of your strategy because of the mindset that it's equipping you with for when it matters. But here's the caveat to this, okay? And I have to mention this, is that you can't go to the pain cave every single day. This is where the burnout happens. So going back to the keep chopping wood, if you keep chopping wood in a burnout way, then guess what's going to happen? You're going to burn out. You go to that pain cave maybe once a week, maybe once every couple of weeks, right? Where you say, this is the workout I'm going to go 100% in with, and I'm going to give it full intentionality and purpose, and this is what I want to get out of it, right? Knowing that it might be super hellish, but that it's going to reap rewards on the other side. The last thing in regards to my DEKA Strong strategy, and I shared this on my highlight reel of what kind of happened behind the scenes with my latest PR, is that the number one reason why I'm here today is, yes, all those other things are super important, but I could have done all those other things and have not done this and still wouldn't have set a new PR. Easily the most important thing is to trust your training, to trust in the process. There is nothing more important than that. I can tell you that that was the one thing that I was missing at World Championships last year. That was the one thing that I was missing at all the other races that I've done so far this year, which really was just one, right? But just in the past, it's never been full on trust. I've showed up to these races and I get really nervous and I question if I've done enough. This time I rolled up, I was calm, I was cool, I was in the zone. And when it was time for me to go, I was like, okay, I've done this. I can do this. And I know exactly what it is that I need to do. All I got to do is trust the process and that my training is here up to the point where I can execute it. And that's it. That's the only expectation, is that I execute today. I execute on what it is that I know that I've got in the bag. Okay. So that is my ultimate strategy for you guys as you prepare for the strong, as you honestly prepare for any race or competitive thing that you're doing, is those few things. And so again, I know that it's not specific split times, but again, I don't think that it would help. I think that this chunk of advice is going to take you way, way further than any of that other junk. So with that, you guys, thank you so much for showing up for you today. I'm so happy that we have this space every single Tuesday or whatever day you listen to this to, just to share and to celebrate how far that we've come. If you have struggled to be proud of yourself, I just want to tell you that I'm proud of you for showing up here every single week, for continuing to press play, for continuing to chop the wood on your mental space that is going to take you so freaking far. So until next time, continue to do the things that matter, and I will see you for another episode of Taco About It Tuesday. See you then.